Just about 15 minutes after the hour of 7 o'clock on this Friday morning. Remember, we are celebrating International Youth Day. And so with me in studio, I have Miss Renee Artwell, who is one of the CARICOM Youth Ambassadors and also the Dean of the CARICOM Youth Ambassador Corps. Ms. Artwell, good morning. Thanks so much for joining us on Now.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me today.
Of course. Well, first of all, happy International Youth Day to you.
Thank you so much, and I say happy International Youth Day to all young persons in Trinidad and Tobago and throughout the region who may be tuned into this program today.
Of course. Now, a CARICOM Youth Ambassador. What is a CARICOM Youth Ambassador? And also share with us, what are some of your roles and responsibilities?
So the CARICOM Youth Ambassador program is essentially CARICOM's mechanism for having young persons involved in the integration movement. And so they created this program in the late 1990s to ensure that young persons can actually get involved in CARICOM, know about the integration movement, and could assist in facilitating that there is continuity in the regional integration movement. And so the program operates in such a way that there are supposed to be 2 young persons from each participating member state who are appointed as CARICOM Youth Ambassadors, and they help to advocate for CARICOM and inform young persons on what CARICOM is, what the CSME is, and what are the opportunities that are created for young persons within this mechanism.
So you are one of 2 in TNT?
Yes. Okay. So in Trinidad and Tobago, we have one in Trinidad, which is myself, and we have one in Tobago, Mr. Keegan Dinoon. We try to ensure that there's representation from both islands in the program.
And so what would have piqued your interest, I would say, in youth involvement and even in CARICOM for you to become a CARICOM Youth Ambassador?
Well, when I did my degree, I went to the UWI Capeville in Barbados. And when you went in such a regional environment where you have young persons from around the region and the young persons who are very passionate about transforming the Caribbean region and creating a more sustainable region, you really are forced into that level of advocacy and activism to really create a way for a better region. And so that's how I really got involved. I started off in the UWI STAT, which is the Students Today Alumni Tomorrow program, and they did a lot of work in terms of regional integration, climate change, and educating young persons on many of the issues affecting youth throughout the region. And so I got involved in CARICOM from there, and when I came back home and I finished law school, I saw the ad open for CARICOM Youth Ambassadors, and I applied, and I got selected.
Nice. And how long will you be a CARICOM Youth Ambassador for? So then tell us when you were appointed, and then how long is the term?
We were appointed in 2020. It's supposed to be, it's usually for 2 years with a possibility for a 1-year extension. Because, of course, of the COVID-19 pandemic, they facilitated us with having an extension. So we should be finishing next year in 2023.
Nice. And anybody who's looking on now and want to know, how to get involved in the CARICOM Youth Ambassador program, what can you tell them?
Yes, well, we are on social media, on Facebook and Instagram. Of course, you can connect with, if they can connect with us if they want to find out more information about it. But the Ministry of Youth Development and National Service is the coordinating ministry for the program. So they are the ones who send out the advertisement and facilitate the interviews when they are selecting the CYAs.
Nice. Now let's switch gears to International Youth Day. Tell us about International Youth Day in terms of the theme, and what does that mean for you as a CARICOM Youth Ambassador?
Yes, well, the International Youth Day is celebrated annually. It's really facilitated by the UN as an international organization at the global level, and it really seeks to create this day where we can celebrate young persons and the contributions that they make to the world at large. Now, the theme for this year is Intergenerational Solidarity, and all this simply means is that while on International Youth Day, we really celebrate youth and the contribution that we create and we give to society, there's a need for all generations to be involved if we want to achieve sustainable development. So we can't just focus on young persons and leave older persons out of the conversation. There is a need for all persons to be involved. So young persons, therefore, need to create a partnership with older persons to ensure that nobody is left behind as we seek to move forward from the pandemic and build back better.
Yeah. Now, when you mention, young people working with old people, ageism came to mind, right? Because a lot of people are, especially the older folks, they are left out of certain things because people they seem to be too old and like they can't, do certain things. How can we work around that issue of ageism to create that intergenerational connection that you were talking about?
Well, most definitely, I think public education is important, because when we speak about ageism, we're really referring to, stereotypes and prejudices that people attach not only to older persons, but young persons as well. There are barriers in places like employment and even political participation for young persons to get involved because they are seen as lacking experience. And I think that the reason why the collaboration and partnership is so important, because young persons and older persons bring two different things to the table. Young persons bring a certain level of innovation and creativity, whereas persons who may be older would bring that level of expertise that you really need to build strong institutions. So I think that is essentially when we are able to bridge that gap and educate persons that, listen, these different generations bring different things to the table, but it's all essential in creating a better world.
Of course. And then, so how does technology assist with bringing everybody together and ensuring that there's room at the table for the older and for the younger generation?
Because we are in such a tech-savvy generation, I think it's very important that we tap into the resources that we have. You know, as we seek to build technology and create this level of digital transformation, it's important that we tap into resources like social media. I mean, we are in an age where we have babies straight up to older persons on social media and utilizing these platforms to get information and to find out resources on how they can get involved and different things like that. So if we're able to push certain campaigns on social media to let people know, listen, we are creating an inclusive society where persons from all generations can get involved. This is what we are going to do. And yesterday I was in a consultation. CARICOM is currently having a digital transformation consultation where they are trying to create a strategy or policy that we can actually get the region moving forward in technology and digital transformation. And we really emphasize that, listen, we need all persons involved. Young persons are seen as tech-savvy, but they still need to build up on their skills, whereas older persons who may be lacking in that area, there needs to be more programs in place to train them so that they could use technology for better.
Of course. Now, when we also talk about that intergenerational collaboration, what other benefits can you see? And let's be specific in terms of nation building. How can they work together to ensure that we have a better nation, a better economy, you know, for future generations as well?
Most definitely. Well, I think when we go into that area, we're talking about policy and decision making. You know, many times when you look at the political participation, what you tend to see, especially within the region, is we have a lot of political leaders that may be a bit older. I mean, now we are now seeing a few introductions of younger leaders. We see Grenada most recently. There was an election in St. Kitts Nevis. I think he is 45 years old. So you are now seeing a bit of younger persons becoming heads of government and heads of state within the region. And that's a good place to start. Because if you want to create decisions for everyone in society that includes young persons, I think you must give young persons a seat at the table, give them the opportunity to contribute to the conversation. So when policies are being created and decisions are being made for society, all groups must be involved. Persons that are older, persons that are younger, persons in marginalized communities, persons in rural communities, persons who are differently able. You need to give everybody a seat at the table to ensure that we can create decisions that would benefit everyone in society.
Now, as a youth ambassador in CARICOM, does the team sit and also work on policies that may be implemented across the region?
Well, that is a bit technical because I also sit as the Dean of the CARICOM Youth Ambassador Corps. I am usually the person who sits on CARICOM technical working groups. So when CARICOM wants to create policy, what they usually do is they create a technical working group or an advisory committee. And what they try to do is they try to have a youth perspective on it. Now, sometimes they may call on individual CARICOM youth ambassadors based on their level of background or their level of skill. So, for example, if they are having something on law and legal transformation, because I'm an attorney, I would sit on that committee. If we have a CARICOM youth ambassador from Barbados who is skilled in social media and communications, if they are creating policy at that level, then we would tend to reach out to that person. But what we do is make sure that young persons have a seat at the table, and once policy is being created, we try to have a youth voice at every technical committee that CARICOM creates.
Now, I know that you were speaking about advocacy as it relates to the CARICOM Youth Ambassador, but I'm hearing that you're training to be a lawyer. So tell me a little bit about yourself.
Yes, I am an attorney. I'm an attorney. I've been an attorney for the past 3 years, and I am attached to the Legal Aid and Advisory Authority.
Nice. So then how do you find the time to be a lawyer? Because that is policy, that is paperwork, also working with these technical groups and all the other responsibilities that comes with being a dean of the Corps.
Well, there is usually not a clash in terms of time because my job as an attorney, it's not an 8 to 4 per se, right? But technically it is an 8 to 4. I'm usually in the office between the hours of 8 to 4. So I usually maximize the time out of the office to work on different things that I have to work on. I use my evenings and my weekends to do extra things because, of course, I always believe in giving back and, you know, having that level of service to community and to country. And so doing things like that is never really a burden for me. It's actually what I like to do. So I do that as a means of stress relief after a long day at work.
I could imagine, yes. And I mean, you are a CARICOM Youth Ambassador when our country is celebrating our 60th independence. What is that feeling like?
It is most definitely an ecstatic feeling as a young person, being able to experience and see us achieve so many things. I mean, at the end of the day, when we look at the level of development that we have here in Trinidad and Tobago, we have a long way to go. But I think we also have a lot to accomplish. We have a lot to celebrate, sorry. You know, we have just recently at the World Championships and all of these sporting arenas, we have seen our young persons in the sporting field bring home all these medals, and you know, just being able to participate, and it brings a certain level of pride to us as Trimbagonians. I think we have achieved quite a lot, and it really makes me feel a sense of national pride to be a young person in Trinidad. Yes, we have a long way to go. Yes, we have a lot of issues to fix, but I think we have a lot to celebrate on accomplishing 60 years this year.
And as far as the CARICOM ambassadorship program goes, what sort of programs or initiatives or projects we can look out for?
Well, we are within the next few months rolling out a climate change and health project. We receive funding from PAHO. However, we would be, because it's a small scale project, we'd be focusing on young persons in Tobago. It's a recycling initiative which we are supposed to roll out, partnering with a recycling company in Tobago. So we're really hoping to roll that out in September of this year, where we have young persons learn a little bit more about climate change and health, because CARICOM currently has an agreement with the EU where they are trying to push this One Health policy. So we want to make sure that young persons are educated on climate change and health, and they can actually engage in practical projects to learn about it and to go on and be advocates to other young persons within their community. So that's something that you can look out for, what we plan to roll out.
Now, while you're at the youth program, do you have any plans to even join, you know, like, let's say the CARICOM communities sometime further down in your career?
Maybe. I'm still very junior in my career,
yes.
So I'm taking things one step at a time. Because I'm an attorney, I have a certain level of flexibility to enter into different fields. So, I mean, I love CARICOM. And I do have a vision for a much better, more sustainable Caribbean region. So I would not, I can see myself there, but I have not really made any kind of firm decisions as to what I want to do, let's say 10 years from now.
That's nice, no problem. And Ms. Atwell, final thoughts before we close.
Yes, I just want to tell all young persons who are listening, happy International Youth Day. This is really a day for us to celebrate us and the contributions that we bring and we create to society. I know sometimes persons may not see it, but listen, young persons are entrepreneurs, they are athletes, they are young professionals, and they contribute to society in all of these different ways. We are unique, we are innovative, we are creative, and that's really something that we should celebrate today and every other day of the year, but more so today on International Youth Day.
Of course. Well, Ms. Atwell, thank you so much for coming in today and just sharing, you know, a bit about your work and, you know, what you see for the plans for TNT moving forward into the next 60+ years as we do commemorate our 60th independence this year. So thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
And that was Mr. Renee Atwell, who is the one of the CARICOM Youth Ambassadors and also the Dean of the CARICOM Youth Ambassador Corps. You're on the Now Morning Show. We have so much more coming up on this International Youth Day. Stay with us.